Welcome, everybody, to the first ever Strong as Steel podcast of the United Steelworkers District 3. We are coming to you from the traditional and stolen territories of the Coast Salish people, specifically the Squamish, Musqueam, and Tsleil-Waututh Nation. And today, or for this episode, I have Cindy Lee, staff rep, who is joining me as a co-host. Jonny, who's joining us to talk a bit about organizing later on. And online, we've got Mike Pulak, area coordinator and staff rep in Winnipeg, because one of the things we're going to talk about today is the Manitoba election that's coming up in October. We are in the District 3 office, specifically in Brett Barden's office. So welcome to Brett's office. And we have Tyler Christensen, who is doing our technical stuff, a member from USW 1944. So today we're going to talk about Pride, which we've just come through a bunch of Pride events across District 3, and organizing, as I said. And then as well as that, we're going to talk about the Manitoba election. So we're going to start with the Manitoba election with Mike online here. And Mike, if you could just tell us what's the feel in Manitoba about the election, which is coming up on October the 3rd, I believe.
All right. Yeah. Things are looking good. We're very optimistic. I have the privilege of sitting on the NDP executive board for this set of since last year or so. So I get a little insight into what's going on in the province and what the party's doing. And so we seem to be polling very well in the last 6 months. And actually, we're considerably ahead of the polls. It seems to be a time for change in the province. And the polls have tightened up a little bit lately, but that normally happens for those of you who are political junkies and watch stuff. Polls are always corrected at elections. It's always tight when the campaign and writ gets dropped. But I think our messaging is doing very, very well. Wab seems to be hitting all the right points and speaking to the people the way that they're responding and want to change the direction the province has been going in the last 7 years. So things are looking good.
That's good. I know you've had a chance to get out with a couple of the candidates and knock on some doors. How does it feel when you're talking to general public out there?
Yeah, it's always everybody's always busy, but I try to push our members and lead by example and get on the doorstep. I know it's not comfortable for a lot of people, but I get out there. Especially on a hot sunny day, it's tough to get up off the couch and go campaign. But when you get out there and knock on doors and talk to working. That's Sue's phone.
Is that for me, Mike?
That's somebody else. Yes. So when you get out on the campaign doorsteps and start talking to working class people like all of us, you feel the vibe and the buzz. And not everybody likes to see you at the doorstep, but you find the few pearls of wisdom out there and people that like to appreciate you come knock on the door and answer some of their questions. And so it's been good. The feedback's been positive.
Awesome. Yeah, no, that's great. But we have our special guest, I think, who has joined us. I hope. I see him. Anyway, we have Wab Kinew, who's the leader of the New Democratic Party in Manitoba, who's joined us for a few minutes. And Wab, we were just talking about, if you can hear us, we were just talking about a little bit about how things are feeling in Manitoba to Mike Pulak, who you may know, our area coordinator and staff rep there. Just welcome. And this is our first ever District 3 United Steelworkers Strong as Steel podcast. So you're our very first famous guest that we've had. So congratulations on that. And hopefully congratulations on what's going to be a very successful election campaign for you in coming up with Election Day on October 3rd. So maybe you could just introduce yourself to our folks and we can ask you a couple questions.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. Thanks so much for the invitation. It's an honor to be here. How do you do? I'm Wab Kinew, and I'm running to be the Premier of Manitoba. And healthcare and the cost of living are our two big priorities in this election. Obviously, we're the party of labor too, so we have strong platforms First of all, when it just comes to jobs, making sure there's lots of jobs here in the province, but also on some of the labor laws that we need to make it easier for people to join a union, and also to have health and safety in the workplace. So those are some of our priorities. And when we're talking about those things, first and foremost, healthcare, it's got to start with staffing. I think a lot of your members will know that there's a staffing crisis in healthcare right now, and it has to do with workers being treated unfairly by the PC government here under Brian Pallister and Heather Stephenson. So job one for us on healthcare is to fix the staffing issues. Let's start treating these workers with respect. Let's get them a decent wage, better working conditions. And then once we start to turn things around and start recruiting more staff, then we want to move ahead with building the healthcare system for the future. So new emergency rooms in South Winnipeg at the Victoria Hospital, Northwest Winnipeg, Northeast Winnipeg, also rural Manitoba, Eriksdale, and just meeting the needs of people who need to access healthcare. Then on the cost of living side, I think we got two big plans that will appeal to your members. One is to freeze hydro rates. And so the cost of electricity has been going up and up under Heather Stephenson. We want to just hit the pause button there, give people a break. And that'll help jobs too, because some businesses, including ones that use a lot of electricity and that employ steelworkers, will also see some benefits from this policy. And then the other big thing we want to do with cost of living is we want to cut the gas tax in Manitoba. We want to do that as long as inflation remains high. So that would save your members 14 cents a liter every time they gas up a truck or a car. And basically what we want to do there is just, send a message. The PCs under Heather Stephenson, they're playing games. They're calling out, the federal carbon tax. But meanwhile, they've been taxing you 14 cents a liter the whole time. So it's pretty phony on their part to be charging you every time you gas up at the pump and then trying to play games with another level of government. So we're just going to say no more games. While inflation's high, let's cut this gas tax, save you 14 cents a liter. And I think that'll help a lot of your members, just the average person, get by. Like if you're driving a truck, that'll save you $14 every time you fill up a pickup. If you drive a Super Duty, it's probably going to be more than that. And then, the labor stuff, I'm sure we could dive into as well in terms of the labor rules. But that's really what we're focused on, just making a difference for the average person out there, including the average steelworker, with better healthcare, better cost of living.
That's great to hear, Wab. And, it's very refreshing to hear, a leader of a party, the next premier of a province, talking about putting regular folks and workers in the center of what we're doing. Because, too often we've got folks like you've got in power in Manitoba that, put kind of business and corporations and their friends in the center of their discussions instead of, regular folks. And, that's who we are. That's who our members are, is just regular folks. You talked a little bit about jobs. One of the things that, is important to us is jobs. Like I think affordability, the start of affordability is jobs, but not just jobs. It's union jobs and, jobs that pay a good wage and, provide benefits and retirement benefits. And, do you have any thoughts on, like the sustaining the jobs that we have, like particularly in the North, we got a couple mines, but they're not thriving like they used to in terms of employment levels. And then just, if there's more stuff we can build and manufacture and purchase domestically in Manitoba, I think, that would go a long way to the affordability issue as well.
Yeah, we're big on jobs. The phrase that we use on our team is Manitoba jobs for Manitobans, meaning let's put local people first. One of the things that the PCs have done is they've contracted a lot out when we're building facilities or we're fixing highways and even doing broadband investments. And a lot of the contracting out is not only going to people from other provinces, but it's even going to people in other countries like the States. And so our thing is, let's put Manitobans first. So Manitoba jobs for Manitobans. And we'd like to bring that attitude to government. So if we're fixing your local highway, if we're building a local hospital, water pollution control center, whatever it is. Let's get the local electricians. Let's get the local construction workers. Let's get the local highway workers out there doing those repairs. And then we're going to see the spin-off benefits in our communities. And when it comes to the future of the economy, like Manitoba has a strong resource economy. And what we want to do is build on that strength that's there already and protect those jobs, but also build up Manitoba's energy economy, which means providing critical minerals that are going to be used in the low carbon industries of the future. So stuff like lithium, nickel, silica, and so on. And Manitoba has a ton of these things. And I think our value to the world right now as Manitoba should be to say, listen, you need nickel, you need lithium, you need these other elements. You can get them here with better labor standards, better environmental standards, better respect for the communities that the workers live in than pretty much anywhere else in the world. So you should come here and look to do this work here. And then I guess what your point is getting at is not only should we be looking to develop these resources here, let's get the manufacturing here too, the value-added manufacturing, because that's going to create a lot of good jobs as well. And we got a good opportunity. Like we can say your electricity costs are going to be cheaper here than most other places, but there's just not that sales force at the provincial government right now. There's not that forward-looking mentality of how are we going to create the jobs that people are going to work in for the next 10 years here in Manitoba right now. You're not getting that with the PCs. And so that's why we're putting our Manitoba Jobs for Manitobans plan ahead and in this election. So I think it's really, really important. And then just along the way, like I said, common sense labor laws so that when we do build these new facilities or when we do have existing operations, maybe strike a new vein and then all of a sudden they can continue operations going forward into the future. Let's make sure those are unionized jobs, good paying union jobs. So common sense labor laws. And then, you know what? When I talk to steelworkers, the rank and file, I hear about taxes. And so we've also said we're going to adopt this year's budget, which means we're going to do things like we're never going to raise the PST. We're going to bring in increases to the basic personal exemption. There's going to be a broad middle class tax cut in there. So if you're the average worker, you'll probably see about an extra $450 after income tax under this plan, broad middle class tax cut. And then, of course, the education property tax rebate. So we'll help on those sides too. But as you say, first and foremost, let's make sure the jobs are there and the jobs are good.
That's awesome. That's great. Hey, Mike, make sure that all the members hear about that because I think that's pretty, what Wab just said is pretty consistent with what we've been talking about around critical minerals, value-added processing, all the way down the supply chain through to recycling. Because, fundamentally, and I believe this, and I think you probably do too, Wab, if we can have people working in good union jobs with benefits, that goes so far in allowing us to be in a position to deal with other things that are important in our society. If people can afford to live, right? It's all about affordability, and the more good paying union jobs we have, the less of a challenge that's going to be across society. I don't know, Mike, did you have anything you wanted to ask Wab, or are you just going to wait till you see him next time?
Yeah, we see Tara quite often, so always. But I do want to springboard off what you said. Like our members are concerned about good quality jobs, and we need to reassure them that they're out there, right? Like we represent a lot of diverse groups in mining and in steel, and those minerals are in our day-to-day lives every day, interwoven with everything we got. And so you can't turn your back on those jobs and pretend that they're not going to be there in the future. They are, and we need to expand on them. We need to entrench them into our lifestyle and make sure they're there for our generations to come in a good, clean environment with good, respectful ways to do it. So.
Yeah, totally agree.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and on the labor stuff, not to put you on the spot, but I'm sure Wab, that making it easier to not easier, making it fairer for workers to organize, because it's never easy for workers to organize in any place. The scales just automatically in our society are so tipped towards the employer, but just making it fairer and actually within reach for workers through card check and other things that we could do in the labor code, is great. And then making sure when we're bargaining and we have to take that step to maybe take job action, that there's not those folks that we call scabs that are allowed to come in and do our work. That would be kind of two priorities that I don't know if you're prepared to commit fully to those things, but if you have any comments on those kind of labor code changes.
No, I'm very comfortable with the language of let's make it easier for people to join a union. Like, let's say we do get these new facilities up off the ground in the next few years in Manitoba. You are looking at manufacturing or maybe new mining operations. Yeah. Why shouldn't they be steelworkers when people go to work in those new facilities? So that's definitely part of the plan. Card check. Yeah, that's an easy yes for us, and something that we're committed to working with you on. And then when we talk about replacement workers, so-called, what I would say on that is this. The case to me makes sense why, if you use your right to strike on a legal strike, that somebody shouldn't be able to take your job, right? Like, that case is very straight up for me. What I think we need to do is we need to spend a bit of time consulting with Manitobans, educating them about this issue. And there are some recent examples, like the Liquor Mart strike that happened in Manitoba, where actually the government itself, through a Crown corporation, used replacement workers that we could point to. So I just think we need to do a bit of that work just to raise the public awareness and get the general public on side on that issue. But as a starting point, I'm very open to that argument, I would say. Great.
That's awesome. That's really appreciate that. I know your time is pretty valuable, Wab. So maybe if you just wanted to, if you had a closing message that you had to Steelworker members about the election, about getting out to vote, about how important it is, and there's basically at that point a month to go, right? So
yeah. We'll be campaigning throughout September, so you'll be sick of hearing from us by the time the election day comes around, which is October 3rd. If you want to vote in advance, take a look in your local areas. Most likely around September 23rd till the 30th is when the advance voting is going to be happening, with, again, the big election day on October 3rd. But in terms of why you should get out and vote this year, what I would say is this. I think a lot of people have a growing, we could call it frustration, or we could call it just like a growing sense of maybe being disillusioned with politics, because you feel like you're being asked to contribute more and more. You're being asked to pay more and more. You're being asked to keep sacrificing. And then what are you getting back for it? Are you actually getting a decent hospital in your community? Are you getting a school that's meeting the needs of your kids? I think a lot of people are feeling frustrated with it feels like the deal is broken right now. And we want to fix that. We want to honor the deal that is supposed to exist in our society with working people, meaning you work hard, you pay your fair share, you should have a decent hospital in your community. You should have a good school to send your kids to. And in those steps that I'm talking about, we're going to find a way to put more money back in your pocket, whether it's saving money on your hydro bill, saving money when you go gas up at the gas station, and then other steps like the broad middle class tax cut. So we do that. We'll make life a little bit better for you, a little bit more affordable, but also fix those services that help families right across Manitoba, whether you're working in Brandon, Thompson, Flin Flon, Winnipeg, Selkirk, anywhere out there. We want to make things a little bit better. So yeah, let's make life better together. And you get your chance to have your say by casting your ballots on October 3rd.
Well, I just want to again say thanks, Wab, for joining us. And you do have the honor of being our first special guest on the first ever Strongest Steel podcast. And it's going to be even more of an honor when we get to say that the Premier of Manitoba was the first special guest on our first ever Strongest Steel podcast. So thanks so much for your time. Really appreciate what you had to say. And when you're done getting elected in Manitoba, maybe you can hop over next door and help us elect an NDP government in Saskatchewan next year. And then we'll re-elect one in BC, and maybe we can keep that moving all across the country and get some real change and real progress for working folks.
Right on. Well, I like the name, Strong as Steel. Good name. So thanks for having me on.
Thanks a lot, Wab.
Thank you.
That's great. And, we're doing a steelworker vote, I guess next week, just after Labor Day, right? We've got folks coming into Winnipeg to do a steelworker vote class and hopefully get out and, volunteer some time in some campaigns and learn a bit about how we engage in the political process. There's probably still time for Manitoba folks to do that, Winnipeg folks to do that. And we're looking forward to that. So I'll see you, Mike, next week when we get into town and start that steelworker vote course. Well, thanks, Mike. I think we'll let you go because I'm sure you got. I'm not being the boss here, but I'm sure you got other stuff that you need to work on. But we appreciate you taking the time to talk to us. So I think we're out of time. I'm getting this. I think means wrap it up. Yeah, I think this means wrap it up. So we're gonna wrap it up. I'm gonna thank everyone for joining our first ever Strong as Steel podcast, and particularly thank Jonny and Cindy for being here. A special thanks to Wab Kinew, who gonna be the premier of Manitoba on October 3rd. We hope for joining us, along with Mike Pulak, our area coordinator. Thanks to Brett for letting us use this corner of his office. Thanks to Tyler for doing the tech stuff. And join us again for future podcasts. We're really looking forward to, I keep forgetting to look at the camera. There's one over there too. I got to look at this one. But thanks again for joining us for our Strong as Steel podcast. Like we talked about, celebrate those successes, little successes in your workplace, big successes at the bargaining table or at arbitration. Be proud to be a steelworker. Be proud to be a union member. And we'll see you next time on the Strong as Steel podcast.